In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to quickly set up a few equipment items and create a PM list in MateSmart software. So I'll begin by logging in, and I've already created a plant in here, and that probably took about 5 minutes, and I added a user. Okay, so I'm going to go to this button first. Now, if you're looking at MateSmart and have the demo installed, you'll probably see these buttons going all the way across the top of the screen. I've got the screen compressed just to fit into this video. Okay, so when the screen opens, I've got screen tabs, plant, there's the plant that was created, work area location. Now I'm going to add a work area location to start with, and I'm going to start by creating a commercial bakery, and we'll add equipment to that. So when I started up MateSmart for the very first time, it created a default work area location. I'm going to go ahead and edit that. So I select the row, and I'll just overtype it. Call it production area. I'll save that, and then I'll add another one called wrapping area. Okay, so I have these two areas. Now these represent geographical areas within my plant, which is a bakery. Alright, and let me go ahead and add a technician. And again, when we first started the program, it created one by default, and we'll just overtype that. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm going to close the screen. And now I'm going to go ahead and create a process and a line. And again, the program created one by default at startup. I'm going to go ahead and call this a bread process. So let's call it bread. And if I want to add another one, we'll say rolls. Okay, so within these processes, we'll have what we're going to call production lines. Now keep in mind, you can always change the names of these. It doesn't have to be process line. It might be building floor, for example. So they can be whatever you want. Okay, I'll click the new button. I'll pick my bread process, and I'm going to add bread line number 1. And I'll save that. And I'll add a bread line number 2. Okay, so now let's add some equipment. I'll go to the equipment setup screen. Notice I'm working in the yellow background buttons. These are configuration or setup. Okay, so we have another screen that opens. It has 5 screen tabs on it. And I'm just going to work with the first 3 today. So equipment groups are types of equipment. So I'll go ahead and create one called conveyors. And maybe another one called forklifts. Okay. Now these groups are used as filters, so when you're looking for equipment to, say for example, create work orders on or build PM lists, you can use these groups to filter the equipment. Next I'll go to the equipment descriptor. Now what the descriptor is, it's basically saying what type of conveyor are we looking at. So I'm going to say tabletop conveyor, and this doesn't designate any specific conveyor. This is going to be basically text that we'll use to build our equipment list, and this helps build it consistently. So notice I didn't say belt conveyor number 1, belt conveyor number 2, and so on. We're going to do that here. So I go to my equipment items, I click new. Notice all these buttons are the same on all the screens. They always do the same thing. And I'm going to place my equipment, this first item, in bread line 1. I'll put it in the production area. And I will create a belt conveyor first. And if I want it to sequence automatically, I can use my equipment index. And for now, that's what I'm going to do. You can always type over this. I mean, it can be a very long description. This is important because this is how you'll interact with equipment throughout the program from this point forward. Now, you can always change the name later if you need to. I'll save that. I'll click new. And I'm just going to add a few here in the interest of time. Okay, so I added 5 belt conveyors. We can add more details to the equipment later if we want. You can kind of see all the various information items here, as well as unlimited file attachments to each equipment item. Okay, say for example one of these is actually, this belt conveyor here is actually in the wrapping area. I can go ahead and just select the row with the left mouse click in the data grid, and then select a different work area location and say save. It's that simple. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave this screen, and I'm going to go ahead and create our PMs. So I'm going to jump all the way over here to the yellow background oil can. And again, we have groups similar to equipment groups. It's a way to filter. And I will start by creating a couple of equipment groups here. Some common ones are, I got my caps lock on, mechanical, electrical, and so on. Another one might be lubrication, and then we can get more specific as we go and create one maybe for conveyors. Okay, now I'm going to add some tasks to my groups, just like the equipment and the equipment groups. I'll click New, and I'm going to start by adding some mechanical task. I'll just say tighten fasteners. Notice I'm leaving this fairly generic. Now if I want to have this display in title case, there's an option I can set up here. Convert task description to proper case on save. That kind of makes it easier to read. Okay, let me add a few more here. I'm going to add a lubrication. And I'll just say lube chain or lube drive chain. Okay, now if I misspell chain, I can use the spell checker. And it picks the right one there. And that fixed that. And I'll continue. Let's try this. Check / add gear lube. Okay. And then let's do a couple conveyor ones. Check / replace, add flights, and check / repair damaged lacing for belts. And I'll just do one final. Lube wear strip. Okay, so those are conveyors. Now, if these were not in the right group, again, we can easily move them just by selecting the row and picking a different group and then saving them. So it's that simple. Nothing's really carved in stone in this program. All right, one other note, these tasks will be shared between the work orders and the PM list. Today I'm just going to create a calendar-based, quick and dirty, list-based type PM list. I'm not going to go into the work orders. I'll be doing that in a separate video. Okay, so let's jump over to tab number 5, PM task lists. Okay, I'm going to start by just creating one PM list. I'm just going to use one task. I'll say lube drive chain every 30 days. Now most of these drop-down lists are select only. The interval ones you can type into for obvious reasons. I'll click save, and now I have a PM list. Now it's not much of a PM list, it's only one item. So let's just jump over to our PM screen and see what it looks like. Okay, there it is. Okay, so we do have this one PM. We can select it, right click on it, and say print selected PMs. You have to drag the screen down here. And there we have our little PM list. Okay, let's add on to this. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create what we call a task package. Now notice these are optional. And I'm going to call it, let's see, conveyor 7. Okay, so I'll say CONV 7. And this will be groups of tasks that we can apply to any equipment as a group that apply to conveyors on a weekly or 7-day interval. So there are some here that we do, typically weekly, and I'll just put them all over there, and when I click Save, it has created this so-called task package. So what can we do with the task package? Well, we can't assign the task package itself, but what we can do is use it as a building block to build our PM list. So I'll click Add, and this time instead of picking a task at an interval, I'll pick a task package. And when I click Save, you'll notice it copied all those on there at once. So now we're really building up this PM list. Okay, so let's add some details to this because our task descriptions are probably long enough in most cases or descriptive enough to describe a task. But what if we need to say more about this? And also, if we look at this, we see we have a loop drive chain 7 and a loop drive chain 30, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to get rid of this task first by selecting it and clicking Delete, and that gets rid of that. Now, let's add a few details. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to select one of these. Let's see, which one would be a good one to pick? Okay, well, I'm just going to pick any of them. I'll try this one. And I'm going to click the Details button, and I get my Details box that pops up. And I can either type into this box, I can copy paste, I can drag drop, or if I have a procedure already saved, I can click Open and then navigate to that procedure. And preferably these should be stored on your server, and that way they're available to everyone. And I think in this case I'm just going to try this oil chains and say OK. That doesn't really apply to this, but let's just pretend. And then I'll click Save, and we'll notice now that this button down here is the same color as our required field color and our row selection color. This indicates that there are details behind that task. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. I'm going to run back to my main PM list. Here it is. And let's go ahead and just select all the rows by holding down the Shift key or the Control key. Okay, print selected. And let's see what we end up with here. Okay, so we're having a little bit more of a PM list now, and notice we have some details on this particular task. Okay, this list can be printed, emailed, faxed, any number of different ways to communicate it. It can also be automatically issued based on time or calendar. Okay, one last thing in this demonstration, and that is how do we address the rest of our belt conveyors? Because we have 5 of them here. They all have a similar task list. So let's just go ahead and try something. Oh, okay, so notice here it says PM list to copy task from with details. So we can actually take our belt conveyor number 1 list and copy it onto the others. So I can just keep clicking Add, picking a different one, Save, Add, and just go right down the list. Alright, if belt conveyor number 5 is not identical to the others, well, I can go ahead and delete something out of it, maybe add something else to it. So it's mix and match to get whatever you need. Okay, so we're pretty much done setting up our PMs for these conveyors. So if I now go to my PM screen where we close out our PMs, we'll notice that we have a whole set of PMs in here. And we did all this in less than 15 minutes. Okay, in the next video I'm going to go over how we close out PMs, and then we'll also do another video on workers. Thank you for watching.